जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरवनचारी यमुना तीरवनचारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना 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 यमुना तीरवनचारी यमुना तीरवनचारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। जय विष्णुपद परमहंस प्रभुजगाचार्य अष्टो सरस्वत श्री श्रीमद शिला भाई चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत साईं महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। आनंद कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील ठाकुर हरिदास की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। गंगा देवी की जय। यमुना मई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। इस्कॉन बीबीथी फाउंडर आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। गौ प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Shri Prabhupada. It's a bit loud, right? ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया Bhagavati uttama shloke Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Kṛṣṇe svadhamopagate Dharmajnānādibhisah Kalau nashtadrashamesha Puranarko dhunodita. This is Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 60, entitled Kṛṣṇa Teases Rukmini. And today we're on text number 44. According to Sridhar Swami and others, this is the first of two texts in which Rukmini Rani in particular criticizes those kings that Kṛṣṇa had glorified in text number 10. Just for your to refresh your memory, we'll go back and hear that verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Raja Putripsita Bhupair Lokapala Vibhutibhihi Mahanubhavaihi Srimadbhir Rupaudarya Balorjitai. That means the Supreme Lord said, "My dear princess, you were sought after by many kings as powerful as the rulers of planets. They were all abundantly endowed with political influence, wealth, beauty, generosity, and physical strength. There's no purport, but he goes on to say, Tan praptan arthino hitva chedyadin smaradurmadan datta bhratra swapitracha kasman no asaman. Since your brother and father offered you to them, why did you reject the king of Chedi and all those other suitors who stood before you maddened by Cupid? Why instead did you choose us, who are not at all your equal?" Then he goes on to criticize himself in so many ways, and we know what happened. But in these verses, Srimati Rukmini particularly points out those kings that Kṛṣṇa had mentioned. So, please repeat. Tasyāḥ, syuḥ, acyuta, nṛpā, bhavatā, upadiṣṭāḥ, strīṇāṁ, gṛheṣu, khara-go-śva-viḍāla-bhṛtyāḥ, yat-karṇa-mūlam, ari-karṣaṇa, na upayāyāt, yuṣmat-kathā, mṛḍa-viriñca-sabhāsu, gītā. Tasyāḥ syur acyuta nṛpā bhavatopadiṣṭāḥ strīṇāṁ gṛheṣu khara-go-śva-viḍāla-bhṛtyāḥ yat-karṇa-mūlam ari-karṣaṇa nopayāyāt yuṣmat-kathā mṛḍa-viriñca-sabhāsu gītā tasyāḥ syur acyuta nṛpā bhavatopadiṣṭāḥ strīṇāṁ gṛheṣu khara-go-śva-viḍāla-bhṛtyāḥ yat-karṇa-mūlam ari-karṣaṇa nopayāyāt yuṣmat-kathā mṛḍa-viriñca-sabhāsu gītā. tasyāḥ syur acyuta nṛpā bhavatopadiṣṭāḥ strīṇāṁ gṛheṣu khara-go-śva-viḍāla-bhṛtyāḥ yat-karṇa-mūlam ari-karṣaṇa nopayāyād yuṣmat-kathā mṛḍa-viriñca-sabhāsu gītā tasyāḥ syur acyuta nṛpā bhavatopadiṣṭāḥ strīṇāṁ gṛheṣu khara-go-śva-viḍāla-bhṛtyāḥ yat-karṇa-mūlam ari-karṣaṇa nopayāyāt yuṣmat-kathā mṛḍa-viriñca-sabhāsu gītā. Ladies, tasyāḥ syur acyuta nṛpā bhavatopadiṣṭāḥ strīṇāṁ gṛheṣu khara-go-śva-viḍāla-bhṛtyāḥ yat-karṇa-mūlam ari-karṣaṇa nopayāyāt yuṣmat-kathā mṛḍa-viriñca-sabhāsu gītā tasyāḥ syur acyuta nṛpā bhavatopadiṣṭāḥ strīṇāṁ gṛheṣu khara-go-śva-viḍāla-bhṛtyāḥ yat-karṇa-mūlam ari-karṣaṇa nopayāyāt yuṣmat-kathā mṛḍa-viriñca-sabhāsu gītā tasyāḥ of her syuḥ, let them become the husbands. Acyuta, O infallible Kṛṣṇa. Nṛpāḥ, kings. Bhavatā, by you. Upadiṣṭāḥ, mentioned. Strīṇāṁ, of women. Gṛheṣu, in the homes. Khara, as asses. Go, oxen. Śva, dogs. Viḍāla, cats. Bhṛtyāḥ, and slaves. Yat, whose. Karṇa, of the ear. Mūlam, the core. Ari, your enemies. Kṛṣṇa, O you who vex. Na, never. Upayāyāt, come near. Yuṣmat, concerning you. Kathā, discussions. Mṛḍa, of Lord Śiva. Viriñca, and Lord Brahmā. Sabhāsu, in the scholarly assemblies. Gītā, sung. Maybe this one can be turned off. Because, yeah, okay. Somewhere it's, I'm going to sneeze if they stay like this. Yeah, whichever one is going faster. Thank you. Okay. Translation. O infallible Kṛṣṇa, let each of the kings you named become the husband of a woman whose ears have never heard your glories, which are sung in the assemblies of Śiva and Brahmā. After all, in the households of such women, these kings live like asses, oxen, dogs, cats, and slaves. Kindly repeat. O infallible Kṛṣṇa, let each of the kings you named become the husband of a woman whose ears have never heard your glories, which are sung in the assemblies of Śiva and Brahmā. After all, in the households of such women, these kings live like asses, oxen, dogs, cats, and slaves. Purport by the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, these fiery words of Queen Rukmini's are a response to Lord Krishna's opening statement found in text 10 of the chapter. The Supreme Lord had said, "My dear princess, you were sought after by many kings as powerful as the rulers of planets. They were all abundantly endowed with political influence, wealth, beauty, generosity, and physical strength." According to Sridhar Swami, Queen Rukmini here speaks with anger, pointing her index finger at the Lord. She compares the so-called great princes to asses because they carry many material burdens, to oxen because they're always distressed while performing their occupational duties, to dogs because their wives disrespect them, to cats because they are selfish and cruel, and to slaves because they are servile in family affairs. Such kings may appear desirable to a foolish woman who has not heard or understood the glories of Sri Kṛṣṇa. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti adds that such kings are like asses because their wives sometimes kick them, like dogs because they behave inimically toward outsiders in order to protect their homes, and like cats because they eat the remnants left by their wives. Om Ajnana-timirantasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapadakavalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haritpriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Madhvavirapi Gopala Svikuryat Kripaya Yadi Tadaiva Sampayah Pitva Shrishye Yuṣmat Priyajanaha. Along with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, let us pray. My dear Lord Gopal, only if you accept my words as your cows can they provide sweet milk to give pleasure to your pure devotees. Tasyāḥ syuḥ acyuta nṛpā bhavatopadiṣṭāḥ strīṇāṁ gṛheṣu khara-go-śva-viḍāla-bhṛtyāḥ yat-karṇa-mūlam ari-karṣaṇa nopayāyāt yuṣmat-kathā mṛḍa-viriñca-sabhāsu gītā. There's a similar verse we hear from the Smriti Shastras that says, For persons who never lend any respectful ear to the kirtan of Lord Hari, and for persons whose ears never receive the nectarian rasa-kathā of Srimati Radharani, for those persons, the mridanga in the kirtan simply makes noise. Dik-tam, dik-tam, digetan. This is a play on words. In Sanskrit, if you say dik-tam, it means it's a curse word. You can guess what it means in modern parlance. Dik-tam, dik-tam, digetan. All of them. Let them all go to hell, in effect, is what is said. So Rukmini is in this mood here. Different commentators have described it, beginning with Sridhar Swami. He says, well, he says that, as we've heard twice now, that this verse refers back to text number 10. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in particular points out that she is speaking these words in an angry mood. Sridhar Swami also said much the same thing. Sershiyam, along with anger, sashapam, as if cursing these foolish kings who were stupid enough to oppose Lord Kṛṣṇa, and we know ultimately they had, all of them had ignoble deaths because of their foolish demoniac attitude. So, what are they like? What is she saying? It's ironic because usually we don't think of Rukmini as being of a fiery temperament. Who is it in Dwarka who has the fiery temperament? Satyabhama. Just like in Braj Leela, Srimati Radharani, she's ready to oppose Kṛṣṇa sometimes. Chandravali is not going to do that. She's always very quiet, meek, respectful, humble. Whatever he dishes out, she just takes it. Even Srimati Radharani can also be like that. But the stereotype is that Rukmini is not like that. But here we see, she's really, really, actually, it seems as if she's angry. Because Lord Kṛṣṇa has deliberately pushed all the wrong buttons. Sometimes he does that simply for his own entertainment. Devotees sometimes wonder, why do we have to suffer even in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, even after taking to Kṛṣṇa consciousness, even after sincerely surrendering to a bona fide spiritual master and engaging in unmotivated, even uninterrupted, pure devotional service? Sometimes it happens that we have to suffer. Who's an example of this? Very wealthy, extremely wealthy devotee, around the turn of the last century, Lala Babu. Anybody recognize this name? His temple is there, just outside of Rangaji Temple. And he was, during the time of the Hastings administration here in North India, he was practically the most wealthy person, at least in Northeast India. And one day he gave it up. He heard one fisherwoman chastising her husband at the ghat of the Hooghly in Kolkata. And she said, "Are, din to gelo." Day's almost over, what are you doing? And he took it in a different way. Somehow or other, by Paramatma's grace, he had this insight that, yes, she's right. The sun is setting on my life, and what have I got to show for it? And what am I doing even still? And so then and there, he made the determination to give up everything and go to Vrindavan. Of course, he was wise. He didn't actually give it up 100%, but he engaged his wealth in serving Kṛṣṇa. As we said, he's got this wonderful temple there, and he bought so many, I don't know how many bighas of land near Govardhan Hill and other places. Great, great devotee. Just to stop the development that we see now here in Vrindavan. Just to hold it in check for some time longer, he did this. And yet even such a devotee, how did he leave this world? Does anyone know? He was doing Govardhan Parikrama, doing the right thing, in the right place, for the right reason. And what happened still? He got kicked in the head by the hoof of a rearing horse. And like that, he left his body. So sometimes it happens. Devotees even have to suffer. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, it may be because of your karma that Kṛṣṇa sees fit to let you keep so that you learn some hard lessons, because the lessons learned hardest are the lessons learned best. Or it may be that you've committed some offense. Most likely that's the reason. When we have to suffer, it's because we've offended someone somewhere along the line. It is so easy for us to commit offenses because we have the mentality of all those creatures that are being listed here by Queen Rukmini, isn't it? Khara. What does khara mean? Ass, beast of burden. And go, not just go, but maybe we can say oxen, buffalo. This is better yet. Not so bright. And shwa, dogs, we see them. Are the dogs very respected here in Brajadham? Not so much. In America, they serve dogs. They worship dogs, practically speaking. There are hospitals just for dogs, believe it or not. And people pay top dollar to put their pets there. Spa. You can take your pet to the pet spa. Believe it or not, this goes on in America because people are so infatuated with these filthy creatures. So they're not going to be treated too badly in America. And for that reason, some of us who want to go to America may end up in that position. We may get our desire fulfilled, but it's not required to have a human body to enjoy the kinds of things that draw most people to America. Not required. So think twice. So what else? Shwa, Viḍāla. That's even worse in some ways, isn't it? Viḍāla. We see them. Somebody brought some cats to MVT. I don't know where they came from, but every time I turn around, there's a cat sitting on my porch. Now, what are the qualities of the cat? Dogs have some good qualities, actually. They're very loyal. They're very humble sometimes. At least Indian dogs are humble. American dogs, it's another matter because they've been spoiled. Anyway, we'll get into that in a moment. And bhṛtya. Nobody wants to be a servant. Have you seen the billboards for the colleges here? Every 10 feet there's a new college going up. All of them are sitting empty, isn't it? Until after 20 years, because of the corruption of the contractors, they just fall to the ground. And nobody ever goes there. But have you seen the billboards advertising all these educational institutions that seem to multiply faster than rabbits here in India? What do they say? Your son or daughter also can become a leader, right? Do they ever say, we will train your child to be a first-class servant? Do they ever say that? Never. Because nobody in this world wants that. In this world, to be a servant is a demeaning position. All right, so these are the different options that we have if we don't want pure Krishna consciousness. There are roughly 8,300,000 other options as well. These are just some of them. And Rukmini is very strongly comparing all these great kings to these creatures, to Chedi Raja, Shishupal, and Jarasandha, and so many of them. They're the ones who came to Kamsa's aid. So she's doesn't have a very high opinion of them. But why would a woman accept these foolish creatures as her husband? Because she has not really heard anything yet. Have we heard anything yet? If we had, we would not be chasing after the same pleasures that these creatures are chasing after. What does she go on to say? I'm just going to give you a sneak preview, if you don't mind. She says, a woman who fails to relish the fragrance of the honey of your lotus feet becomes totally befooled, and thus she accepts as her husband or lover a living corpse covered with skin, whiskers, nails, head hair, and body hair, and filled with flesh, bones, blood, parasites, feces, mucus, bile, and air. That's what we're all full of, people. And therefore Shankaracharya says, don't be so bewildered. Nabhi-stana-bharanadi desham drishva maga moha vesham. Don't be so bewildered when you see the beautiful form, especially of the younger woman, he mentions. But for women it means men also. Don't be so bewildered, because you have to recognize all the time, etan mangsa vasadi vikaram manisi vichintaya bharam bharam. Again and again you have to consider that these are just transformations of all this bones and flesh and pus and hair and germs and so many things. So this is the wisdom. All right, so some of our acharyas in particular, well, let's take a look at what Sanatana Goswami has said. Asadharana mahatmyamrita paripurno bhavan eva. You are the only one who is completely perfect in the nectar of uncommon glory. Nobody else can claim this. No one can say this. Only Kṛṣṇa. And in her opinion, only Dwarkadhish. Anyetu sarva guna rahita drishta iti bhava. Her mood is that anybody else other than this Dwarkadhish, Shri Kṛṣṇa, this person is completely bereft of any good qualities. And how do we know this? From which chapter of Bhagavatam, 5th canto, do we hear this? The pundits will know what I'm thinking of. Huh? No. We're talking about qualities or the lack of qualities. Who has all good qualities and who has no good qualities, according to 5th canto, chapter 18. That's your second hint. Oh, come on. You've heard it before. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinshana ityadi. Aage badho. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. How can they have any good qualities? Kyon? They're just running around on the mental platform. Whatever their minds tell them to do, that's what they're chasing after. Just like asses, cows, dogs, cats, and servants. This is why she says this. They cannot have any good qualities. In the commentaries on that verse, the acharyas have explained that the reason only devotees have good qualities is because the devas who administer the karma that causes you to have good qualities in the material world, they come into the heart of a devotee. They sit there because they want his association, because they say, here is a heart that's finely clean. Let me stay here for some time and let me preserve this devotee's good qualities for all time. That's, of course, Krishna's arrangement. But this is why devotees only have good qualities, and according to Rukmini here, only Kṛṣṇa has these qualities, really, because Kṛṣṇa is sarvagunavan, and by his grace only anyone else can share in his qualities. It is exactly the same way that Jiva Goswami explains when he comments on the etan nirvidyamananam verse. Who knows that verse? Etan nirvidyamananam ichchatam kuto bhayam yoginam nṛpā harirnāmanukirtanam. Great authorities have concluded that chanting of the holy name of Hari is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all, whether you're a fruitive worker or a jnani or whatever, a yogi. So in his commentary there, he explains demigods' names. What are some demigods' names? Here we have two of them mentioned. Mṛḍa. Mṛḍa. We don't necessarily hear this as a very common name of Lord Shiva, but that's what it is according to, who is it? I think either Vamshidhara Acharya, or maybe it's Srinath Chakravarti Thakur. No, it's Vamshidhara. So, Lord Shiva, and the name Shiva itself is also included in the Vishnu Sahasranam, isn't it? And so is the name Hara, and so is the name Mahadeva. You getting the hint? These are actually only Krishna's names. But Krishna has very kindly allowed the demigods to take his names also, just like all of us. Dharnamatma, right? Mukunda Datta, Gopal Das, whatever your name is. It's actually a name of Krishna only, but this is the tradition. We take the names of Krishna so that we can remember Krishna. So this is the idea. So in the same way, the good qualities really only belong to Krishna, and he shares those with whomever he chooses to benedict in that way. So Rukmini Rani is mentioning this. Now, as the purport is mentioned, particularly Sridhar Swami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, probably the two most important commentators in our line, they have an explanation for all these terms, why these kings are considered to be khara. Have we heard the name khara before? Saeva go khara, right? What are you? You're considered to be like an ass or a buffalo if you come to Vrindavan and think your business is done if you just take your holy bath in the Yamuna. Of course, you might end up in, also Max Apollo Hospital if you take your bath in the Yamuna these days, because it's thoroughly carcinogenic. Thanks to all the corrupt politicians who look the other way after receiving some bakshish from the businesses and factories who are throwing all this garbage into the Yamuna. Anyway, dogs and cats can also take bath in the Yamuna. Cows, and we see all the time here the pigeons. They're also living in the temple itself. We have our ashrams outside, but these creatures are actually living in the temple. But what are they doing in the temple? Oh, you see them. I don't need to elaborate. You see what they do. These are their activities. And the fruits of their activities continue the same nonsense generation after generation. So, khara, asses. Why asses? Sridhar Swami says, kevalam bharavaha. Because they're only meant to carry the burden. What is to carry the burden? We have to carry forth what we've received from our august predecessors. Of course, that's true, but it's only glorious if we're thinking about dharma, and in particular if we're thinking about sanatan dharma, saddharma, parodharma, bhakti, shuddha bhakti. Then it's glorious. Otherwise, if we're just carrying on this parampara of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, we're not better than asses, beasts of burden. They have to work so hard to carry, just like the dhobi in the old days. Nowadays they're not doing so much, but in the old days we used to see them. The dhobis would fill up a donkey or a donkey with this so many kapre, and you just wonder how you can fit so many clothes on one beast, practically breaking this creature's back. This is what happens when you're a householder. The brahmacharis love to hear these verses. And the householders get a little bit nervous. But this is the fact of the matter. It's a great burden to hold up a house, to uphold a household, to make the whole thing go. It's not so easy thing. Kevalam bharavaha. But without Krishna consciousness, Sridhar Swami is implying you're just no better than an ass. And according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he has a different reason that you're an ass. What does he say? Because when the ass approaches the she-ass in an enthusiastic mood of romance, what does she do to him? My godbrother, Badrinath Swami, you all know, he comes sometimes. He told me he was blessed by Krishna with a divorce because that's what happens in the modern world, even in India. Everybody has the same neglect of dharma. Nobody takes it seriously. Nobody cares if they even have a clue as to what it means. So they get divorced. And so he had some thinking to do. He came to Vrindavan. He was sitting on the bank of the Yamuna. And what did he see while he was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and praying for guidance? What did he see? Donkey. He saw an ass come up. And this ass, you could tell from his physiognomy that he was in an enthusiastic mood to conjugate. And so he approached the she-ass, and what did she do? She was not interested. That's very often the case, isn't it? So she gave him both hooves, not one hoof, both hooves at the same time. Bam! Right in the face. So this donkey shook his head. He had to wander off and sit down for a little while and think, just like Badrinath Maharaj. And then he came back again, because unlike Badrinath Maharaj, he's just an animal. Yeto farke. Dharmasya hina pashubhi samana. Without dharma, a human being is also no better than an animal. So this poor creature came back again. He thought, like Jarasandha. Jarasandha came back 17 times. So he came back again, and again, both hooves, bam, right in the face. That must have hurt so badly. I can't imagine. He shook his head again. He's probably seeing Chakar. And then he came back again, third time, bam, same thing. And then Badrinath Maharaj said, that I considered. Then he took sannyas. Smart one. Some of us are smart. Some of us are fools. Anyway, while we're human beings, we have to try to take advantage and before we lose this opportunity. And then we may be actually khara, or go, or shva, or virala, or at best bhritya. Because this is what happens when you indulge in sense gratification, when you surrender to that process. What is it? Prahlad Maharaj calls it the griha-vrata, the vow of household responsibility. It's a euphemism. But actually it just means two hooves in the face at the end of the day. That's what it means. So, this is the khara. Oxen. Why? Sridhar Swami says, are they oxen? Because they're always dissatisfied. Always dissatisfied. Shudra means, anybody know the etymology? Shudra? Shochati iti shudraha. Because the person is whining and complaining and placing blame on everybody else, these are the Shudras, he says. So similarly, the oxen, they're always dissatisfied. Well, why are they dissatisfied? Because they're made to work hard. And Prabhupada mentions this in this Krishna book. I should read that. Same verses are translated a little differently there. We get some new insights. Rukmini says, my dear Lord, you've advised me to select one of the princes, such as Shishupal, Jarasandha, or Dantavakra. But what is their position in the world? They're always engaged in hard labor to maintain their household life. Just like the bulls working hard day and night with an oil pressing machine. You've seen that? Sometimes they still have this in the village. This thing they go around and around and around and around and all day long. We call it a treadmill in the West. You work hard and get nothing. You go nowhere. All this so-called pragati in this material world, it's all horizontal only. You're not actually moving up. And more often than not, you are moving down. It's not really pragati. So, she says like this. They're compared to asses, beasts of burden. They're always dishonored like dogs, and they're miserly like cats. They have sold themselves like slaves to their wives. Any unfortunate woman who has never heard of your glories may accept such a man as her husband, but a woman who has learned about you that you are praised not only in this world, but in the halls of the great demigods like Lord Brahmā and Lord Śiva, will not accept anyone besides you as her husband. A man within this material world, after all, is just a dead body. In fact, superficially within this material world, the living entity is covered by this body, which is nothing but a bag of skin decorated with a beard and mustache, hairs on the body, nails on the fingers, and hairs on the head. Within this decorated bag are bunches of muscles, bundles of bones, and pools of blood, always mixed with stool, urine, mucus, bile, and polluted air, and enjoyed by different kinds of insects and germs. If you get really sinful, then you don't have to worry about becoming a khara or a go or a shva or a vidala or a bhṛtyā. It's very interesting. The bhṛtyas are kind of equated with these animals, isn't it? Degraded existence, materially speaking. For someone who wants to actually be an Ishvara, it is a degraded position. But if you're even more sinful than that, then you don't even get that facility. You take birth as a spineless creature. You take birth as a germ. Or you take birth as some creature inside of someone else's body, a parasite, who actually enjoys all these things. Foul airs and stools and urine and all these things. They're actually adibhotik klesh. When we get some parasites in the stomach or something, there's some other creature who's designed to enjoy this filthy content of the material body. Anyway, so that's what he says. They're always dissatisfied, oxen, and nitya vyapara klishtaha, because their business always harasses them. They're never done. They would like to take a break so much and sit and wave their tails and drink water on a hot day like today, but they're not allowed to do that. They're forced to work. This is what it means, vyapara klishta. Just like those of us who think that India got independence in 1947, but are still working for the grandsons of the same people who enslaved our forefathers in the form of IT, multinational corporations of various sorts. You see them, even on the corner of the Parikrama Marg. What do you go there, what does it say? You see it? You know, Calvin Klein, Peter England, adi. Samsung, Xiaomi. These are all the multinational masters who have turned us into bhṛtyas. Even in 2024. Think about this. So anyway, this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Bharavahanadi, because they're also bearing burdens like this. Okay, now, shwa, why dogs? Sridhar Swami explains that. Avamata. Their wives are disrespecting them. When someone is a newlywed, she's a little bit acting like Rukmini, right? And fanning and bringing the prasadam on time, and it's hot, right? But after some time, this is called mugdhanayika in Sanskrit literature. She's innocent, and she's afraid of her husband. But after some time, what happens? She turns into a praudhanayika. Praudhanayika. And that means she's no longer afraid of him. She takes him for granted. She neglects him. And, this is what happens. This is the reality of material life. So it gets worse than that. The bitches disrespect the dogs. Bitch means female dog, according to Sridhar Swami. Avamata, she has no regard for him. And sometimes in this world they do it the same. That's what he says. That's why these kings are like dogs in his opinion. We've heard from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, geha palanartham. Geha palanartham. These kings exist only to protect the household and the women within it. Just like dogs. Anybody comes and they bark. Srila Prabhupada was very impressed by this when he first came to America. He used to see, not only do these people worship their dogs, but they put a sign in front that says, "Beware of dog." Have you seen that here? Not so much. Probably in Delhi by now they have it. And it will not be an Indian dog. Cannot be an Indian dog. No way. Impossible. Has to be a Videshi dog. Hey, no? I've seen it. So they put a sign out front, "Beware of dog." Taittiriya Upanishad is telling us, "Adhiti devo bhava." And, you know, the mind is telling us, "Beware of dog." So there, and believe it or not, in Texas, in the United States, if you live in the state of Texas and you perceive some intruder on your property, at any time of the day, you are legally allowed to shoot that person on sight and kill him. It's legal to do that, believe it or not. There's exact antithesis. And of course, it's not surprising why they have that law, because there are people who are worse than animals. When I was in New York City, Manhattan, a few months back, we were walking on the street and seeing all kinds of unsavory characters. And I was just appreciating. In Vrindavan, we have only to fear from monkeys, but these people are worse than monkeys. They can kill you. A monkey will usually not kill you. You see? Anyway, so aggressive to intruders. This is the modern mentality, and this is what merits birth as a dog. Carrying the beast of being a beast of burden for the family only, not thinking of your spiritual life. This is what merits birth as an ass. To be always dissatisfied and to carry a heavy load, this is what merits birth as an ox. Now, Viḍāla. Why Viḍāla? Kripanaha hingsrascha. Because the cats are misers, or very selfish. This is how it's been translated by, I think, Bhanu Swami. Very selfish cats. Cats only think of themselves. Dogs will think of you. At least they have enough sense to protect your house. Cats, they don't have this. So, you know, it's a different mentality. Kripana and hingsascha. They're very cruel, actually. And that's what Sridhar Swami says. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says they also eat the remnants of their wives. Uchishta bhoji. If you know Dharma Shastra, a husband will not take the remnants of his wife. Wife can take the remnants of the husband, but the husband cannot take the remnants of his wife. Sorry, there's no equality here. Not my words, you take it up with Manu. But this is what a cat does as well. And they're envious. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds, Vairikari, not only feeling envy, but doing envious things. That's even worse, isn't it? To feel envy for someone else, but to control it, that is human. But to feel envy and to act on that envy, this is called Vairikari. And this is what a cat will do. So, dog and cat civilization, and we heard these terms so many times from Srila Prabhupada. This is what he's talking about. Instead of coming to Vrindavan and trying to find Kṛṣṇa beneath some kadam tree and join the Ras Leela by reading enough books from Loy Bajar, a person should actually cultivate the consciousness of how am I going to guarantee that I get at least another human birth? Study your consciousness and see, are we really different than these monkeys much? This is what we have to consider very soberly. And finally, bhritya, slaves. Slave is a much maligned term. Subordinate to all the family members. A household servant. Even if the children tell him to do something, the servant of the household has to do it, right? Even children, he's serving, everybody. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, dasyakari, those who have to carry out your... In Sanskrit, we have a nice word for it. Kinkara. What does kinkara mean? Kinkara. Kim bho bhavan kim karishyami iti kinkara. Kim kara. What am I to do? Just order me. This is the idea. So in the material world, these things are not very much respected. And Rukmini Dani is saying these are the ordinary men are like this, ordinary women are even worse. Because they want to marry such a person. So these are her words, not mine. We have to repeat even the uncomfortable sections of the Srimad Bhagavatam, because if we don't repeat them, then we take the responsibility of changing the trajectory of the parampara that we have received from our own spiritual master. And I don't think we really need that on our karmic portfolio, that you can consider for yourself. But Shankaracharya, he also has something to say here. He says, Yavat pavano nivasati dehe. As long as your life heirs are inhabiting this body, tavat prachati kushalam gehe. That long, your family members will inquire, how are you doing? But gadavati vayo deha paye, when the life has left this body, then bharya bibhyati tasmin kaye. Even the wife who used to very ardently embrace the husband at night in bed with great affection, she's afraid to go near that body. These are the things we have to consider here. And these are the things that Rukmini Rani is suggesting here, indirectly, but in the most graphic way that she can. And it's probably a good idea. So I'm going to stop here. But if anybody has any questions or any comments, we can discuss. Otherwise, yes.
Hare Krishna, Brahmā.
Hare Krishna.
Very excellent class, very wonderful class. I just want, I being a gṛheṣu and whatever in the class what's spoken is a daily activity which we go through, So how should one gṛheṣu live exactly, Because we carry we are like ass, cat, and I am like ass, cat and dog and everything goes on. So I don't know exactly. Please can you help me?
No, the thing that these quotes are trying to destroy is the mentality that we have. We enter into our life situation, whatever our ashram or varna is, and we have the mentality of trying to exploit it for the purpose of becoming a pseudo-ishvara. That's what these quotes are meant to destroy. The activities are fine. You should be responsible. You should carry out your duties according to the Dharma Shastras, because that's what Kṛṣṇa says to do. So we're not saying to be irresponsible or to give up our household situation if we happen to be householders. And we're not saying that you should not get married if you have to. Because swe adhikare yanishta saguna parikirtitaha, talking about gunas, the real guna, Kṛṣṇa tells Uddhava, is to be situated in that thing for which you have real adhikar. If you have adhikar only for household life, then you have to do it. And as a householder, you have to fulfill your obligations according to Dharma Shastras, nothing else. So that is the point. We have to be responsible householders, and you cannot be a responsible householder, in fact, unless you cultivate Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So this is why we, it's what, like Kṛṣṇa told Arjuna, you have to think of me and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. So we have to do like that. While we're bearing the burden of the household, right? While we're serving all the family members, while we are protecting from intruders, or while we are, whatever we're doing, we have to do it with a mentality that I'm actually Kṛṣṇa's dog instead. Oh, hey Vaishnava Thakur, ami tomar kukura. Thakur explicitly says this. This is a good attitude. This we can learn from these creatures. When it's engaged in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, pure Kṛṣṇa consciousness, not this kaitava Kṛṣṇa consciousness, but pure Kṛṣṇa consciousness, then it's glorious. then it's dharma, and then it's exemplary for the whole world. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, another one. Jose Boli, or microphone out he had.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for a very wonderful practical class. One quick comment and a question. Srila Prabhupada had mentioned several times to run a household is more difficult than to run an empire. If anybody has an experience of gṛhesthāshram, they can relate with that. So it's how difficult it is to run a household. My question is, you had mentioned two nayikas. When husband and wife, they are newly married, the wife is very submissive and very pleasant. You use the term nayika, and then after some time, family tributes contempt, and she turns, totally opposite. Can you please repeat those two names? What two kind of nayikas?
I didn't quote a verse in that regard, I don't think so.
No, just two terms.
Yeah. The terms I quoted were, one of them is mugdha nayika.
Mugdha nayika.
Yeah, she's innocent, she's inexperienced, she doesn't know anything, and so she's very, childlike, actually. Mugdha nayika. And the other kind of nayika, or heroine in Sanskrit literature, is praudha. Praudha means mature woman. She's experienced, she knows, she's no longer afraid of her husband. So these are we find these two categories of ladies in Sanskrit literature. Sanskrit loves to classify everything, so we have so many categories for this and that. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll stop here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.